Please join me in welcoming Pete Barnum and Amanda Sturm for a special introduction.
Good evening. I'm Pete Barnum. I'm the Mason FFA chapter the advisor. My gosh, we've been practicing these Parley Pro contests a little too much lately, I think. It's with great pride that I introduce your next speaker, William Barnum. I've been blessed to be both his father and for the past 7 years, his advisor. William is an outstanding young man with many great qualities and attributes that I respect and admire. William is a tireless worker. If you ever need help with a project where hard work is involved, William is your guy. He's an incredible work ethic and is full go from start to finish. William is thirsty for knowledge. If you're up for a meaningful conversation that involves plenty of depth, a little debate, and an opportunity to learn a nugget or two, William is your guy. Ever since William was able to read, you would often find him buried in a book with intense focus. When it's time for bed, you had to go back and check a couple of times to make sure he had his flashlight off and was finally done reading. Since that time, the media has definitely changed, but the quest for learning has not, always seeking to understand the how and why. William is intelligent. If you want to talk through a challenge or think through a situation, you guessed it, William is your guy. William pursues excellence. Good is not good enough when it comes to William. If you need something done right, William is your guy. He has high expectations and is extremely demanding of himself. Whether he's cleaning the barn, clipping a lamb, or writing an essay, William is only satisfied with the best possible outcome. My grandma always said, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And I know that she would be proud looking down upon him. William is also an independent thinker. If you're looking for a true and genuine thought, not based on current social or peer pressure, William, again, is your guy. Unintimidated by conflict and driven to stand up for what he believes is right, he will often be found sharing his ideas or supporting others. Thank you, William, for investing your time in the Michigan FFA Association this past year. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome your 2023-2024 State FFA President, William Barnum, for his retiring address.
My name is Amanda Sturm, and I'm the advisor for the Montcalm Area Career Center. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing the girl who literally knows everything there is to know about chickens. And it was very fitting that her picture up on the board had a chicken in it. So I have a question for all of you about chickens. What are the two colors of eggshells? What do you think? So most of you probably just yelled brown and white. If you are from the Montcalm Area Career Center or you are Lauren, you know that the correct answer is actually that all eggs come in white or blue. So the next time you have a colored egg, crack it open, look at the inside, and it will either be white or it will be blue. The outside is colored by extra proteins, which Lauren actually knows what the name of the protein is if you ask her. So this little fact about colored eggs actually took Lauren all the way to the state AFNRE, a lesson plan contest where she won. By the way, her chapter wanted me to let her know out loud in front of everyone we think she should be an ag teacher. Chickens have led Lauren to being a state finalist for agriculture issues. She received the State Proficiency Award in poultry. She received a bronze award at nationals in poultry. She also received an SAE grant to build a brand new chicken coop for her fancy Americanas, which they are a splash, something else fancy name that I'm gonna get yelled at for not knowing that. Sorry, her mom's right here, or mine. All right, so many of the kids who come to the Career Center know what their perfect career is gonna be a lot of them that come to my program say, I want to be a veterinarian. Not Lauren. When Lauren came to my program, she said, I want to be a taxidermist. I want to be able to hunt. I want to be outdoors. I want to be a taxidermist. So in my class, we build custom fishing rods. So the first year, Lauren builds her fishing rod. The second year, she looks at me and she says, Sturm, I just really don't want to do that again. I've already did it. I understand it. And I really just want to focus on taxidermy. So is it okay if I taxidermy a squirrel? So I kind of looked at her and I was like, okay, so Mr. Griffith from Ionia does squirrel taxidermy. So I called him up, got the details, and so began the life of Jerry the squirrel. So squirrel comes into my classroom in a bag. They proceed to take Jeremy apart. Then they decide, well, we're taking the squirrel apart. We should try and eat the squirrel. So we did that. So if you ever go to Mobark, up in Edmore, Jerry the squirrel lives on the wall in the office. I did not get Jerry the squirrel. I was a little sad with that. But Lauren is a natural leader. She helps others whenever she can. She's not afraid to get dirty, whether it's dissecting something in my class, planting plants in our greenhouse, or gutting and stuffing a squirrel. The passion that Lauren has for agriculture is something that makes me very proud to call her one of my students. When she came to my class for the first time since second grade, I knew right away she was going to do amazing things. I'm so proud to be her ag teacher and to recognize all the things she has accomplished, like being our school's first state officer, first state proficiency winner. I am very proud to present to you your 2023-2024 State Sentinel, Lauren Gorsuch.
I'm gonna slow on down some way, somehow. Today ain't different from the rest. Oh, the you that I pine for, the you that I need, oh, the you of right now is the best.
How many of us here struggle with wanting everything in life to be perfect? Maybe we beat ourselves up when we didn't get that A that we studied really hard for. Maybe we find ourselves procrastinating on work because we're afraid that we won't be able to do it perfectly. Or maybe we're simply unable to draw the line between having high standards and being perfect.
For many of us, this is reality. But when we fixate so strongly on perfection, we miss out on the lessons that mistakes bring us. Pursuing excellence is an honorable endeavor, but it's critical to understand the difference between excellence and falling victim to perfectionism.
I used to struggle with perfectionism. Well, to be honest, I still do. If I do something incorrectly or not up to my standards, I can get pretty stressed out. And by stressed out, I don't simply mean upset. I'm talking, I get physically sick to my stomach and mentally feel like a failure. This was especially true during my showmanship days at the Gratiot County Fair for Youth. On the outside, I looked great. I had tons of people looking up to me for advice. I'd win first place almost any time I'd show an animal, and people would constantly praise me for working so hard. But honestly, I didn't feel great. Not in the slightest. I used to get so worked up before showing my animals that I struggled to think, sleep, or even eat on the day of a show. And when you're showing 5 different species, this can become a real issue very quickly. There were some days that I didn't take a break from practice or eat a meal until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, after my show had already ended. I had a deep fear of failure, and I blamed myself whenever anything went wrong, no matter how small. I mean, what would other people think of me if I fell short and showed my flaws? Would they think less of me? Well, last year, I decided that I had enough. I was tired of being cranky on show days and, consequently, snapping at the people who are closest to me. I was fed up with not being able to enjoy breakfast on the morning of a show, or not being able to simply walk around the fairgrounds and take in all of the little things. This was supposed to be the best week of the year, yet here I was, making myself miserable. So I started to ask myself some questions. If I did not win in showmanship today, would this matter tomorrow? And many times, the answer was yes, it would matter tomorrow. If I did not win in one species, I would not be eligible to compete in my county fair's showmanship sweepstakes. This is where the top showmen from each division compete against each other, and I loved this competition. So I knew it would matter tomorrow, but then I asked myself another question. Would this matter in a week? And the answer was no. It wouldn't matter in a week. A week from now, I would be putting away any awards that I had won and anticipating next year. Okay, would this matter in a month? Also no. A month from now, I would be setting up my blinds for deer season and getting ready for the new school year. The last question that I asked myself was, would this matter in a year? Definitely not. A year from now, I would be dealing with this exact same issue, regardless of how well I'd done this year. So, if it was something so small, why did I let it bother me so much? With this mindset, I prepared for last year's county fair. I made sure to practice, yes, but I didn't let it run my life. Now, just because I didn't let it run my life does not mean I gave up. I still wanted to do well. I kept my standards high. I just set realistic expectations that I could accomplish. Because of this, I was getting a full night's sleep before shows. I got to hang out with my friends again without feeling stressed the whole time. And most importantly, I got to enjoy a big breakfast with my family on the mornings of my shows. And honestly, I had the best fair in my entire life. I actually did better with all of my animals than I ever had before. I maintained excellence, but pushed away my perfectionist tendencies. Now, I know what many of you might be thinking. Well, isn't perfectionism and having high standards basically the same thing? In reality, there's a pretty big difference between the two. A perfectionist tends to set unrealistic goals. They struggle with the ideas of disapproval and rejection, and they constantly blame themselves when things don't go as planned. On the other hand, a person with high standards does their best to set realistic expectations. They constantly strive for personal growth. And when they do fall short, they are upset at the outcome and not at themselves. Constantly focusing on perfection rather than setting high standards can be detrimental to our self-worth and our growth as individuals. Make sure you draw the line between excellence and perfectionism. And remember, you are your own biggest critic, and no person or thing can ever be perfect. It's time we embrace that. So when we find ourselves falling victim to our own perfectionism, take a step back, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, will it matter tomorrow? Will it matter in a week? Will it matter in a month? And lastly, will it matter in a year?
It's the first day of class. Your ceramic teacher announces, I'll be dividing the studio into two groups. All of you on the left side of the studio, you'll be graded solely on the quantity of the work you produce. On the final day of class, I'll bring in my bathroom scales and weigh the work of your group. 50 pounds will earn an A, 40 pounds a B, and so on. Y'all get the idea. Now, all of you on the right side of the studio, you'll be graded solely on the quality of the work you produce. You only have to produce one pot to earn that coveted A, but it has to be perfect. Well, this would be totally crazy, right? But one ceramics teacher did just this. And when grading time came, a peculiar pattern emerged. It turns out that the works of highest quality were all being produced by the group being graded for quantity. It seems that while they had been busily churning out piles and piles of work and learning from their mistakes, the quality group had sat, theorizing about perfection, and in the end, had little more to show for their efforts than grand, unproven theories in a pile of untried clay. But if you're anything like me, you never took an art class, let alone an advanced pottery course. But I'm almost certain we all found ourselves amidst the longest and dreariest hour of any day, English class. Who here had or currently has an English teacher that asked them to journal at the beginning of each hour? Me too, my friends, me too. A mentor and friend of mine, David Scales, also endured this slow start to every one of his English classes from middle school all the way through his completion of the ACT. David tells it like this: I was 3 hours in and I had successfully navigated the English, math, reading, and science portions of the ACT, and only the daunting essay remained. With high stakes and sweaty hands, I feverishly employed my pen across the lines and within the confines of the box until I finally lay the instrument of my masterpiece to rest. With 5 minutes left, I look up at the clock, grin, and think to myself, man, I'm good at the English language. In the months to follow, Mr. Scales anxiously awaited his test scores. And sure enough, when he opened up that high priority mail, he had done it. Mr. Scales had scored the perfect essay. Now, was this essay as good as one written by George Orwell, Jonathan Swift, or Ralph Waldo Emerson? Certainly not, as next to nothing is perfect. But Mr. Scales' longtime dedication to the exercise of journaling led him towards compounding improvements, which allowed his piece to meet the exceedingly high standards of the ACT graders. Chasing perfection often becomes paralyzing and gives us fewer opportunities to achieve those high standards of excellence we should have for ourselves. But if we truly free our minds from the self-imposed binders and consequences that we materialize and associate with failure, and rather capitalize on each chance to grow, then the opportunities and successes we have will be limitless. Set a goal of quantity, and you will inherently meet your quality standards. Amidst my own days in high school, it's this bit that I can still remember from Miss Van Bielen's AP World History class. It's a poster of Zig Ziglar plastered on the wall that reads, "You don't have to be great at something to start, but you have to start to be great at something." You don't have to be great at something to start, but you have to start to be great at something. To help us adopt this mindset, we must remember to pursue excellence, not perfection, and to ditch the all-or-nothing mindset. Excellence is not being perfect, but rather both prompt and prepared. Promptness plays directly into being both prepared and polished. This looks like starting our work when it needs to be started. Going back to English class, I remember often telling my teacher, who kindly set aside time for us to work on our essays, I'm just not in the right mindset, and I'll do it when I get home. This led to hastily submitted assignments and consequently rushed results. Had I simply started promptly, I would have had a better prepared essay, a better grade, and a better sleep schedule. Having a perfectionist mindset leads to procrastination. Buying into the more holistic focus of excellence lends itself to being both prompt and prepared. Ditch the all-or-nothing mindset. Going back to high school once more, but this time with math class, it always baffled me that I, or anyone for that matter, could earn points for an objectively wrong answer. But it was with the help of Mr. Jones that I now realize it was because of the all or nothing mindset that I once thought so incompletely. I previously awarded no credit in my own mind for an incorrect answer, even if I had done all of the elaborate math steps correctly, and it was off simply due to a minor computing error. We must recognize the victories along the way. This can look like keeping a note or journal in our phone of all of the small victories that we rack up to look back on, proving progress that even we cannot deny. We often think to ourselves, if I can look perfect, work perfect, and live perfectly, then I can minimize shame, blame, and judgment. But if this is our only goal, to avoid criticism, then we must accept Aristotle's wise words and say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing.
But as FFA members, and more importantly, the next generation of leaders, it is this mindset that we must overcome. We must not cave to our own personal desire to be viewed as perfect, focusing narrowly on results. Instead, choose to perfect the process, and excellence will follow. Michigan FFA, pitch perfection.
And embrace excellence.
Told me if I wait, everything meant to be will stay. But I ain't a believer in people pleasing. The telephones have ruined this place. Met a man in New York City, told me humans ain't as pretty as a perfect day will chase for all their days. I ain't spotless, neither is you. But once in my life, I'm gonna see it through. If you want spotless, I'll always lose. I don't want love, lover, I want the truth.
Intelligent, intentional, and authentic. Michigan FFA, our state president, William Barnum.
Thank you. Wow, going over.
Lancelot, if you wanna be the hit. I ain't spotless, neither is you. But once in my life, I'm gonna
Compassionate, witty, and organized. Michigan FFA, our state sentinel, Lauren Gorsuch.
Remember jumping in the pool when we was fully clothed in August. We was soaking, choking, smoking in my old apartment. Then they cut off all the lights cause the bills were never paid. We were stealing all the power from the neighbors on vacation. I ain't spotless, neither is you. But once in my life I'm gonna see it through. If you want spotless or always lose, you gave me love, lover, you gave me the truth.